4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello, and welcome to Louisville's Best Podcast, a podcast about everything, nothing, and all things in between. You are Louisville's best listeners. Thank you for tuning in. Well, it's 2021. The gang is not all here, but the majority of us is here. Is here? Are here?
The majority of us are here for Art Thou.
Exactly. That's the King James Version.
Words.
Aaron is unavailable tonight. He's out camping, which I think that's the first time he's camped since we were kids and we were taking out snipe hunting.
Snipe hunting's nice.
What an awkward experience that is. But anyways, Charlie's here on the couch wearing the Boston Bruins and the Droid socks. He's rocking it. Mm-hmm. John, the salty producer that he is behind the mic, behind the scenes, the master.
The very stylized studio table we have here that costs $25.
He's literally in the center of the scene, though.
That's true.
He's not behind the scenes. He is the scene.
Fair enough.
We are on the sides of the scene. The stormtrooper is behind the scenes.
Yeah, I wish the stormtrooper could run the camera and the equipment, because if he could, I would be in front of the scene too. Brian,
are you there?
What's up? I'm here.
And Brian is joining us via the basement. The Brian.
We're 100% sure if I was or not, right?
We're glad Brian's able to join us over the phone, over the wonders of the internet.
The internet, and we are also very glad that our YouTube is back up and running. The Tube of You.
Yes, you can now see how John's wall of pops has grown.
That's right. Bigger
and better.
We decided just to get back on. I mean, we had the camera. We had spent a lot of money on the camera, and we weren't using the camera. And so being that we had, well, we were doing a 1-hour podcast back in the day, and it only allows for 30 minutes of recording. Now that we're only doing like a 25 to 30 minute, so we try it out again, see what happens. Works, it works. If it don't, we may just mysteriously disappear again off the YouTube again. As quickly as
It's 2021. It's a new year.
It is a new year. So we thought we'd try something new that's old. So,
Out with the old, in with the old. That's right. That's how we're rolling for 2021. Well, we're excited to kick off this year with our best moments from 2020 in the entertainment realm, okay? So each of us have put together a list. Even Aaron, before he went camping in his red shorts, decided to send over a list. He's got his top 3 entertainment moments from 2020. We'll go around as we usually do, having everybody kind of give 1 or 2 at a time, and then we'll finish it up by
with a blast
just giving
from the
you
past.
A preview of next week's podcast, which is just going to be the worst.
I thought we'd bring back a blast from the past from the old podcast tonight too, since it is 2021 now.
John's out of control, guys.
I am. I'm absolutely gone nuts. Well, we're in my basement
sweating
tonight.
Profusely.
See, usually we record these in Brian's basement when we're not on COVID restriction. And here I have all my toys. I have all the Magic 8 Ball and stuff. So we're going to ask the Magic 8 Ball about 2021 tonight. At the very end, we'll have one of you guys ask it a question this evening.
All right. Well, let's jump in our top moments from 2020 entertainment. This can be kind of any medium of entertainment, and I'll start with one of Aaron's. He listed the Umbrella Academy Season 2.
Ooh.
He gave me this as his synopsis for why. You ready for this, Charlie?
Yes.
Umbrella Academy continues to be a fun ride that keeps you guessing.
It did keep me guessing.
Charlie you love Umbrella Academy, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to hate it. I wanted to hate it so bad.
It's good. I enjoy it.
I wanted to hate it because I didn't think that I liked My Chemical Romance. However, I have decided that I was wrong. I do. But I also want to start a steroid band called My Chemical Bromance.
Oh.
So
they all wear black headbands.
Are you being truly serious about the liking of My Chemical Romance now?
I couldn't sit and listen to them all day long, but I don't hate them as much as I used to. I like them more than I thought that I did.
See, now that's the thing about them is because Susie's been a big fan of them for several years now, and one day she's like, "You got to listen to this CD," and I was like, "I don't want to listen to this stuff." and then it was the Black Parade, and I like thoroughly enjoyed that CD. And so I mean, yeah, I can hang with them a little bit. I think they're all right. They're pretty cool.
All right, Charlie, let's go with you next, sir.
I'm going to go with a film that I was really excited to see in the theater, and then you couldn't. It was supposed to come out like the week of, or actually, it did come out the week of quarantine, so I could have theoretically went to see it, but I didn't. But I did rent it for way more than I should have on Amazon Prime, and that is The Hunt.
You saw it. I didn't know you actually saw it.
The Hunt, and if you have Cinemax, it was on there as well.
Okay.
I think it still is. I just canceled my Cinemax subscription and got HBO Plus or HBO, whatever it is.
Max.
Well, it's HBO through Prime, which is a whole different can of worms.
Yeah.
But The Hunt is such a well-made film in the fact that it does a good job parodying both extreme sides of the political spectrum. It does a great job of making fun of the extreme right and the extreme left. I don't want to get into the plot of it because even though you think that it was presented as, and it is on the surface, liberal elites hunting rednecks, but when you get into like the meat of the story of why this is occurring and what's actually happening and how they kind of really messed up, it's a very entertaining watch. And even though it deals with very serious subject matter, it's got just enough over-the-top violence to make it comical. Mm-hmm. And that's, once again, not trying to spoil anything because it's a really well-made film, but they do that in the very first 5 minutes. A few things happen, and you're like, "Oh man, they have thought this plot out very well." So if you're not into violent films or films with cursing, then I wouldn't watch it. But if you like a good story that presents itself as one thing and then gets to a different place, it's definitely worth watching.
It's got the 1 star of Glow, right?
Betty Gilpin, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's great in it.
Okay. John, what do you got first on your list?
All right, number 1. This is the greatest moment of 2020 for me. It was the moment that Boba Fett showed back up on The Mandalorian. That is absolutely. We haven't talked
Spoiler.
about. Oh well, yeah. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
more than likely, our viewers have already watched it, but just in case.
Yeah, I'll stick a spoiler on the YouTube on the video.
All right.
So anyway, being that he's just back. He's Mandalorian. It's something we haven't talked about a lot on the podcast since they started showing it last fall. The COVID thing we just kind of I don't know, we just missed it on it. But the scene where he comes, the return of Boba Fett is the number 1 moment for me, especially when he goes after the stormtroopers with the bantha stick is just absolutely amazing. You don't get to see him in that light in the movies. I mean, because let's just be honest, in Empire Strikes Back, he's just background. Mm-hmm. Just we needed something to move the plot forward, so we got him. Return of the Jedi was the most ridiculous moment in Star Wars history. Boba Fett, and he hits him with a bantha stick and knocks him, ironically, with a bantha stick or whatever it was. So yeah, him coming back, absolutely amazing. It was definitely worth.
Mandalorian does a good job of bringing back your childhood.
Mandalorian does a good job of everything. I mean, they even made a spoiler here again. But they even made a frog lady at the very beginning of season 2 interesting for a couple of episodes, and so they need to take over and do Star Wars all the time.
It's good. I have Mandalorian on my list for another thing, but we'll get to that. Brian, if you're with us still, best moment of 2020 for you, entertainment wise?
For me, the best was The Last Dance, the highlight of the 1990 98 Chicago Bulls. That 12-part or 10-part series was thoroughly entertaining, kind of seeing all the stuff going on in the background of, you hear all these things between ownership and players, and of course you've got Michael Jordan. Again, everybody knows my opinion on that, the GOAT, the greatest basketball player of all time. But seeing how he was interacting and like basically just getting burned out on playing, feeling like, we win championships, they're difficult every year, but yet we're still doing it. And I feel like if he would have unretired hadn't retired the first time, they probably would have won 8 in a row if ownership could have kept it together. So I just thought that was a really great series that they had put together.
Yeah, it was like the talk of everything when it first came out. It was a good one.
ESPN though puts together a really good sports documentary. I mean, 30 for 30s. If you could watch like a 30 for 30 on the Tour de France, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
it just
So
blows your
interesting.
mind. And so, yeah, I watched all 10 episodes of it. And I'm not even a Michael Jordan fan per se, but it did give me enough ammunition to go in and fight with a bunch of 8th graders over the GOAT, whether or not it was LeBron James or
That's another
Michael
debate for
Jordan.
another day.
Oh yeah.
Since we're leading off with probably our best, or some of us are, for me, I would say Mandalorian Season 2, again, spoiler alert, the last episode when Luke Skywalker shows up, and he's the Luke Skywalker Jedi Master that you have wanted to see ever since you were a child, and just annihilates everybody. That's fantastic, and it's just like such a love letter to Star Wars fans. It's how I feel. Like, let me bring your childhood up and just relive those memories with you. And it was just amazing.
There was nothing better. As soon as that X-wing fighter landed, you knew exactly what was going on, and I was just like, "Oh, it's got to be. It's got to be." And then he had the silhouette, the black robe, and the black gloved hand comes out, and I was like, I told Carla, that's it. It's over. It's Luke Skywalker. And you actually, like you said, got to see him fight like you would hope that Luke Skywalker would be able to fight, and not that Return of the Jedi kind of fighting he did with Darth Vader at the end. It was like,
Can you do that again for us, Joe?
I
Please,
can.
one more time.
I could get down my lightsaber and do it, but
To tack on to our Mandalorian talk, let's go to number 2 from Aaron. He brings up Mandalorian as well, and he kind of hit on the same things that you and I did, John. The return of Boba Fett and the real Luke Skywalker that he's waited for decades.
yes.
That's what Aaron said there. So,
Well, can I tack on to that then?
yeah.
I think one of the biggest moments for me in that series, because of course I think we all have Mando on our list at some point in time, but I thought Ahsoka was done incredibly well.
Yep.
That whole episode was one of the ones where I was like, okay, I need to see more of her. I'd love to hear her backstory, kind of see how that, would love to see how that transpires in the future.
They're hitting on all cylinders with their casting.
Yep.
I mean, they're taking they're not doing it. I know we don't have a lot of time to rest on this because we got a bunch more to get there, but they're taking kind of the Marvel approach to casting where they're not just, we're going to find a person and do this. I mean, they're really going out and finding the right person to fit that. And I think they're bringing in people that are really sold out to the Star Wars, that really want to be part of the Star Wars legend. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really helping the show, is because everybody that's on it's sold out to Star Wars. Everybody that you see interviews are like, it's like playing in your sandbox when you were 6.
Right.
So that's what I like about it. It's amazing the way they're doing it.
Charlie, what do you got next for us, bud?
Since we're going with The Mandalorian, mine was, spoiler, the very, very last scene of season 2 when Boba Fett takes over Jabba the Hutt's criminal empire.
Yes.
There are so many things that were great about that the fact that they even mention Kwee and then they kill him. They say the name, then she comes in and kills him. But, even though it's going to be quote unquote Mandalorian season 3, I think people are not going to like it as much, the casual fan, because people love the Baby Yoda show, which I'm not knocking on at all. However, for those of us that are diehard Star Wars fans, to see the Boba Fett that we've always wanted to see, kind of like the same thing they did with Luke Skywalker, but to see Boba Fett and how he takes over the criminal empire. Of course, we've also seen that, like Mando, he has a good side as well. The scene where it was revealed that him and what's her name were going to stick with Mando until they got the child back, even though they did their quote unquote part they had promised him. So there's going to be a lot of those things I think happen where he's going to have to basically repay a debt. Mm-hmm. Are we going to see all of the bounty hunters? Are we going to see Han Solo? If so, is it going to be a CGI Harrison Ford, or is it going to be the guy from the? There's so many questions to be answered, so I can't wait for it. I know it's going to be a year, but
the part about that scene that really got me is how much it mirrored the beginning of Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Where you're almost
where's the steps,
where there's the blaster off scene and the one runs up the scene and gets killed, and you're just like, Man, they did such a good job.
They did a
with that.
documentary on Disney Plus about that,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that they actually went back and found the 40-year-old blueprints and rebuilt Jabba's palace to the same exact detail that it was before. Everything. So you talk about some guys, though. I mean, those guys that are running it, John Favreau, I can't say his name. Favreau and
Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni. I mean, this is, like you said, it's like a love letter because they're putting so much incredible detail in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just amazing. I can't wait to see what they do with some of these other.
And they did come out and announce, I think, like 3 or 4 days ago, that it's actually not replacing Mandalorian season 3. It's actually going to be a standalone. Mandalorian season 3 will just come out like 2 or 3 months later after that or something like that. So I thought that was cool. Because
they never called it season 3, but
Yeah.
still, you would think he is also a Mandalorian. So
yeah. The more Star Wars, the better right now.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah.
as long as it's streaming.
as long as it's done by
Yeah.
John Favreau.
Yeah. John, what do you got as your next one?
Number 2, I can go through this real quick. It was something I picked up on HBO, and a lot of people disliked it, but I kind of liked it. It was Perry Mason, the new Perry Mason.
Yeah, you talked about
We
that.
had talked about it before. It does fit, and I won't go into what they are, but it does fit the 3 Bs. And so the thing about it, though, is that it just... I'm kind of in it. I'm not into like all the bad language and things of that nature so much, but I do like the idea of bringing in these characters and putting them in what I would consider to be a grittier, more real world scenario than what you see from the 1950s, 1960s Perry Masons, where it's all clean and everything's cut and dry. And this is not. So that was my number 2. I really enjoyed sitting down watching it. Of course, I had to watch it on quarantine, so anything was good. So it was.
I have a quarantine one as well. When I had COVID, one of the shows I watched on Netflix was The Queen's Gambit, and I know it's a little cliche to mention it, but it kind of made chess a little cool, which I always enjoyed playing chess as a kid. So that was good, and then just kind of Netflix as a whole. I watched The Last Kingdom on there as well, so had a lot of fun with both of those shows. It was a nice break while I sat at home sick. Brian, what do you got next for us?
The next one that I had was one of my YouTubers that I follow. His name is John Malecki, and he has John the Builder Malecki Show. And so he's a woodworker. He's a former Pittsburgh Steelers football player turned woodworker, but has now been able to build this kind of social media following and grouping where there's other areas now that he's taken on. So it's been great to see not only the builds, but how he's given back into the community and has been an agent for change. So that was a good thing this year for me.
All right.
Nice. And I'll go with Aaron's final of the list. In typical Aaron fashion, he went full Aaron and said Sonic the Hedgehog, the film, was his last moment. And you're going to love this reason. Sonic should have sucked, but it was the best and only film I saw in theaters this year. So
Okay, well, we'll give you some credit for that. I thought, man, dude, that movie does suck. You couldn't even watch the trailer.
I didn't see.
I didn't either. I never saw it, but I was like, no.
I just loved that the trailer came out and everybody threw a fit, so they had to go back and remake Sonic.
Yeah, that's the linchpin there when they had to go back and redo the animation. Not really getting there.
I actually caught part of it, and I wanted to dislike it more than I did.
Yeah.
It was a. I don't know if I'll ever sit down and watch it start to finish unless I have all 4 of my limbs broken and it's on and I can't change it with the remote that I have, adjusted for my teeth.
Clinched between your teeth.
The better is it? I mean, from what I
really
saw,
going down.
well, I'm giving you that there's a very highly unlikely that I watched that film. That being said, though, what I did see of it, they did a good job of making it kind of, this is what we're doing, Sonic. Jim Carrey was good in it. Cyclops was great in it, from what I could see. So,
All right, Charlie, redeem us from Sonic with your next one.
actually, it was something that you just mentioned, but it was Netflix. I was gonna have individual films. To be like, I don't want everything to be Netflix, but there was one that just came out called Ava, which was it's your standard female assassin movie. She's trying to get out, but the love of her life's keeping her back in. But it was a fun film. It's been made 700 times in the past 3 years, but it was a good movie. There was Project Power with Jamie Foxx and hashtag JGL, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That movie was one of the better. What?
It's on my worst list.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great.
It's terrible.
That's okay though.
I mean,
We can
that's
have
all
this
right.
conversation.
It was entertaining to me, at least. You know.
This
Well,
would
we
be
could talk
good.
about it. Yeah.
I mean, it's no
haven't
remake of a 70-year-old show or anything, John. But
I know. I got you.
Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. That was a
That's a
good
good
action
one.
film as
That's
well.
actually a really good one.
I'm trying to think. One that was awful but great is The Debt Collectors. So there's an actor, what's his name? Scott Adkins is in just about every action film that's been made in the past 15 years. He's a British Muay Thai fighter, which doesn't really think that it should be a real thing. But he does a great job of playing either really mean henchman or really goofy, like, I'm just happen to be really good at martial arts, but I also would just like to have a point and like play some soccer. And
See the poor man's Vinnie Jones.
he's Happy
That's
Vinnie Jones.
exactly who I was thinking.
He's literally Happy Vinnie Jones is what he is. But yeah, there's all kinds of great, not like Citizen Kane, but there's lots of entertaining films on Netflix.
Yeah.
There was the Old Guard with Charlize Theron. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, and I'm more of a fan of episodic television, but there really wasn't much this year. I mean, there was some, but not until the past couple of months. So Netflix was something I spent most of my time watching.
It's good. All right, John, what do you got next?
All right, my last one, documentary I watched on Netflix. Here we go again. Netflix ruled our lives this year.
Give
But
props to
I've
Netflix.
really gotten into the lore of music, like how things just kind of almost like the folklore of music. And one I picked up on watching on there after listening to a podcast on it is one called Devil at the Crossroads, and it was a Robert Johnson story. That was a really cool folklore-ish, how Robert Johnson was this really crappy guitar player, and then he goes away and he comes back and he like sets the standard for every blues player from that point forward. And the legend always is that he sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads to get this incredible power. And this kind of goes back and kind of reinforces that kind of legend to some degree. So it's pretty cool.
Speaking of music documentaries, I recently watched the Bee Gees special on HBO Max. It was really good. Just to see, I just didn't realize how successful they were over such a long period of time before the disco era, that they were already kind of a big thing. But it was pretty good. Brian, what do you got last for us, or if you have a final one?
The final one that I had was, again, we've all kind of said stuff about Netflix, but for me it was the show The Toys That Made Us. That was the first time, again, kind of being homesick. I found that while I was at home, and then I didn't even know they could make My Little Pony interesting, but they made My Little Pony interesting. And so, again, that was one of the shows that I really found. I know, I've been missing out. So
That's awesome. The last one for me was they had the last season of Clone Wars come out on
That's
Disney
very
Plus. Kinsey and I watched that, like the whole season or the whole series over the last year. Really enjoyed the final season. Loved Ahsoka. I loved how they took certain things from the prequels,
Trequels, yeah.
the prequel trilogy.
By trequels, you mean the Ewoks films, right?
Yeah. The prequels.
Life Day.
Where, like, Order 66, they really explained in depth where that came from, and they filled it in. And the cool thing was,
It came from Begun Clone Wars, right?
we found this website that showed you how to watch the last 4 episodes along with Revenge of the Sith. It would timestamp them. You would watch the first 15 minutes here.
I think I've heard of this website, Disney Plus.
No, there's a website that took and said you watch the first 15 minutes here, and then you watch like 5 minutes of this episode of the cartoon, and then you watch 10 minutes of the movie, and so it all like lines up in this chronological order, and you see it all working together. It was really cool. We really enjoyed that.
The very last episode of that of Clone War is absolutely better than the prequel trilogy altogether. Especially at the very end. I won't spoil it, but that scene at the end is just absolutely amazing, and it's very good. They did a very good job on that.
I liked it a lot. Charlie, did you have another one for us?
I have a honorable mention, and that would be Birds of Prey. It wasn't as good bad as Suicide Squad, but it was still good bad.
I haven't watched it.
As I said about Suicide Squad, you don't need to. It had a lot better characters than Suicide Squad, but once again, they weren't as good bad as Suicide Squad. Ewan McGregor in that film does a really good job of, in what I took from it as a Batman and Robin TV show villain. He did a great job at that character. He got progressively more insane as the movie went on. Elizabeth Winstead's character, they do something really funny with that. They keep calling her the crossbow killer. My name's the Huntress. No, you're the crossbow killer. It's a running gag the whole film. It does a great job. Rosie Perez is Rosie Perez. If you like her, you like her. If you don't, you don't. She uses her real voice and not the white men can't jump voice, which she still uses sometimes in films. And then who's the other, besides Margot Robbie? There's another one. The girl that plays Black Canary, and I can't think of her name, but she's been around. Like, she was on Full House. She was one of Michelle's friends. Okay. So that's how long this girl's been, or this woman has been in acting. She's on Lovecraft Country, which I haven't watched yet, which I've heard is great. But
I've heard the same. I just kind of like.
I don't like H.P. Lovecraft. Period. Yeah. The whole except for. What's the movie? In the Mouth of Madness, which is based on Lovecraftian theory. But, anyway, back to it. It was just it was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie. It wasn't a horrible movie. It wasn't so horrible it was entertaining like Suicide Squad. It was well made. I was surprised at how much it was not a dumpster fire. If DC hadn't made exclusive dumpster fires, it would be a dumpster fire. By comparison to the rest of their catalog, it's like in the top 3.
Well, I'll say this: you've convinced me to give it a try. So I enjoy a good turn your brain off.
I got one honorable mention before we go. It's a podcast I found this year, and I have been enthralled with it. It's called My Funeral Home Stories. You can find it on Apple Podcast, and it's a guy who has been working at his dad's funeral home since he was like 13 years old. Yeah. And it's all the real bizarre and really graphically violent, like body pickups he's had to do through all these years. You don't want to listen to it in front of your kids. You definitely don't, because he drops the F-bomb quite a few times. But
funeral.
Yeah. If you're looking for a good podcast, just listen to while you're doing nothing. It's a pretty good one.
My honorable mention before we sign off was the last, not the whole last season, but just like the last episode of The Good Place. I wasn't sure how they were going to end it. They did a pretty good job with it. Had a nice, real heartfelt moment with Chidi at the end. So that was good. So, but we'd love to hear what your top entertainment moments of 2020 were, as we all got through this crazy year together. You can listen to us. John's going to take us out here just at the very end, but you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Anchor, wherever you listen to your podcast, and also check us out on YouTube. John will have more information about that. But before we sign off, John.
This is something we used to do all the time when we did a different podcast called The Five Live Bears, and I thought I would bring it back tonight. We won't do it all the time, but 2021 is coming up. Does anybody have a question? Brian, you can't see it. We got the Magic 8 Ball out of storage. And so does anybody have a question for the Magic 8 Ball before we sign off this evening? Anybody about 2021? Anybody around the room?
Will somebody punch me in the face?
Will Tim get punched in the face here in 2021? This is the question.
Depends on what he says.
Yep.
That's true.
Outlook not so good. And I don't know which way you want to take that.
Well, for the people that like me, that means that, they're like, dang it, he's not going to get punched. But for
people that don't like you.
Yeah. Because the outlook's not good. That means we're not going to see him get punched in the face. But for people that do actually like me, that small group, it's going to be sad days for me in 2020.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.